we just had a huge blizzard. It was a 4-day blizzard, and we had been out of school for 4 days. And I was really glad about this because I had a big math test. Whenever we went back to school, we knew we were going to have to do this. And so we hunkered down in the house, and we were very happy about the snow, and the polar bears were happy because they were roaming around Westerville, where I was from. And at the end of the 4 days, they actually plowed all of the roads well enough to allow us to go back to school. And I knew that I had to go take this math test. And so the day came, and I strapped on my book bag. And I got to tell you this, that my parents bought a house that was close enough to the high school where I wasn't able to drive, but I had to walk in the snow, uphill, barefoot, no coat. It was the way it was, you know, and it was 6 or 7 miles to school. I had to get up at 6 a.m. every morning just to make it on time. I'm exaggerating maybe a little, but I did have to walk to school, and it was about a quarter of a mile, and I looked out, and you know how it is in Ohio, here, and nowhere else have I lived is it like this. But you know, the snow melts just a little bit during the day, and then it freezes over at night, icing over everything. Well, I looked out and I saw the streets were still completely covered with ice in my neighborhood. And so I said, I'm going to be smart. I am going to walk on the snow. I'm not going to walk on the sidewalks or the streets because I don't want to slip and fall. And so I walked outside, and I crunched in the snow, and it was very crunchy snow. And, I thought, I'm going to be completely safe. I'm on the grass. Well, it turns out I wasn't on the grass, or the grass had frozen over, or everything was just one giant iceberg out there. And I walked out, and I was 20 feet outside of my door. And my left foot went this way, and my right foot went this way. And I heard a little snap, and I laid in the snow for a minute, sort of a heap. I was sort of a pile of books and Wagner. And I thought to myself, I got to really get going to this math test. And so I stood up, and I took 3 more agonizing steps towards school. I was going to make that math test. That is how committed I was. That is how committed I was to getting to this math test. And so I took those 3 steps, and I realized that something was wrong, and I fell back down in the snow. Luckily, I was only 20 feet outside of my house, and so I crawled back into my house through the snow, 6 miles barefoot. Anyway, and I got in there, and I called my mom. And I was so humiliated. I was humiliated by falling in the snow. I was humiliated by the fact that I had to crawl into the house. I was humiliated by the fact that I had to call my mom. And my mom was an emergency room nurse for 17 years. I got away with nothing. And she said, when I called her, she said, "Are you sure it's broken?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's broken. It's swelling up and it hurts." And she says, "All right, I'll be out there in a few minutes." She worked nearby. And as I was waiting for her, I actually had to get into my parents' bed because they had a bedroom on the first floor and mine was on the second. And so I'm laying there in my parents' bed, and I looked behind me, and there was a rosary hanging off the bed. And I took that rosary off. I said that rosary in about 35 seconds because the pain was so great that it was the only thing I could do to not concentrate on the pain. And so my mom came, and she took me to the hospital, and they did the x-rays, and sure enough, I had broken my foot, or broken my ankle. And so they had to put a full leg cast on me all the way up to the top of my thigh. And they put this little rubber foot on there so I could walk around. So now, not only did I have to walk to school, I had to walk to school in the ice and the snow on crutches. Actually, they took me to school after that. Now, let me tell you this. I got out of the math test. When I had the cast on my leg for 6 weeks, people would open doors for me. Teachers would be nicer to me. My friends were being nice to me. They'd go get my lunch for me. It was great. And I tell you what, I went on more dates in that 6 weeks that I had the cast on my leg than the other 4 years at high school combined. Not that I was using it to get sympathy or anything. Perhaps I was. But, a lot of really great things came out of breaking my leg. A lot of really great things. I still have the little rubber foot that they put on the bottom of my cast as a little memento of this thing. And I don't bring it out very often because it's a little weird now, 15 years later. But I want to tell you that story because out of a really nasty, bad situation came out a lot of good. If I hadn't fallen and broken my leg, I would have had to take that test. I got out of that. I would have had to go to school the whole rest of the day. I pretty much got out of that. I got to stay home and watch cartoons and The Price is Right all day, which is great. I would have never understood how much my friends cared for me, or my parents. It gave me an opportunity to see how much they loved me because they helped me and they served me and they never got tired. And of course, there were other benefits to it as well. I took a really bad situation and turned it into something really fantastic. And let me tell you something. The reason I bring that up is that is exactly what Jesus does for us. We who have been caught in the slavery of sin, those of us who have been put into the darkness, those of us who have had our hearts